what you said on paper.
I wish that I could freely dream and be judged from within, hunted by a power that cannot see past my skin. My views are viewed as ignorant, my truth always denied. My history is shrouded in a spider web of lies. Isn't this America? Or is this America all a lie?
Of the freedom of speech, somewhere I read, of the freedom of press, some.
Pastor Hobland. Good morning. Welcome back to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. I'm your host, Larry Ellison, in studio, live. We are live here November 8th, 2025.
I know it's probably unusual for us to be live.
Well, we've been here a couple of weeks, and
in a row.
In fact, we have to start figuring out how we can. You can do because Pastor Walls. We can kind of do the Facebook, and so we can do it remotely.
We can do it from home.
Yeah, so we can do it from home.
So I can walk downstairs to my office and really.
In our jammies, and be jamming in our jammies.
We'll be jamming.
Alongside me here is my co-host, my brother from another, Dr. Bradley.
I appreciate your brother. I can't sing though.
You did pretty good with that happy birthday, man. I know your sister's probably. Did she listen to the show? I know.
Yeah, she does.
Okay,
but I don't think she listened early in the morning. But I would tell her. She'll go back and get it on YouTube.
Pastor Hodge will send you that segment of the hour, and you can send it. Matter of fact, when you go there today, you can play it for everyone in attendance.
Yeah, I will do that.
Right?
I will do that.
That will make her day.
I'll be grateful. I'll be grateful for that, brother.
That will make her day.
Yeah.
That will make her day. Again, you listen to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. The call-in number here is 617-282-0685. 617-282-0685. Folks, we are really in some you think the airlines is in we are in some turbulent times for quite a while now, and we're trying to be solution driven here. How do we get out of it, and how do we stop treating this as if it's a temporary problem? It's like, you go to the hospital, this is why preventive care is so important, right? Usually by the time you go to the emergency room, it is an emergency, right? When the signs have already been there, we've been sick, but we keep putting it off. Well, we're there now. Let's not wait till we have to go to the emergency room, and then they tell us there's nothing they can do for us when we can go and get some preventive care, and that being helping ourselves. So with that said, without further ado, I want to welcome to the show. Welcome back. It's been a while. Donald Brown, a retired detective.
Oh my God, we're going back.
We're going back. Right?
Oh my God.
Retired with and I had the dubious honor that he had prior to me was he retired with the #1 badge. He had it for quite some time. The most senior detective in the Boston Police Department.
My brother.
And that's why I was shocked when someone like, wait a minute, I'm next in line after these folks. There's some folks who carry that badge like Donald did. And I remember when I first kind of met Don, I was a young cadet, and him and Ellis Thornton, who's no longer with us, and these guys would come in and check out the shotgun. I'm like, somebody's in trouble.
Somebody got it coming, huh?
Somebody's in trouble. That door is coming down. I know the introduction isn't worthy of you, but we want people to know a little bit about who you are. Good morning, sir. I'm glad you're enjoying retirement.
Good morning.
You and the family are well.
Yeah, we're hanging in there.
Okay.
Doing the best we can.
There you go. You and I have been talking quite a while, so I'm glad you're able to join us this morning. Donald, we're I think we, like they said, we perish from lack of knowledge, right?
Yep.
I know we're preaching to the choir here, but maybe people sometimes hearing it from folks other than us about how things were, how we got to where we are, but how we can get out of this, because I think we can. I try to be optimistic, but man, there's days it's just difficult, my brother.
Yeah, and the thing about it, even though there's been a lot of change over the past few decades, some things still remain the same, which is unfortunate. But I figure the best way for folks to know more so about MAMLEO and the struggle that we went through and those who came before me went through. In other words, they say the more you know about the history of something you're involved in, the more you want to be involved in it.
Yeah, your history should be no mystery. And to that point, like I said, Donald, you have a little bit more time in MAMLEO before I came there. And sadly, a lot of the young officers, that's why I think Dr. Bradley and myself, even, our current president, Dr. Lopes, former president, Eddie Crispin, we had the flavor of it early on enough to where we understood. Where a lot of the young officers coming on today, it's hard to even engage them about the history because they think the job is just about how much money they can make, and not understanding that that's a small part of being a member of MAMLEO and also serving the public.
Exactly, because if people, especially young officers, not only knew but appreciate the struggle that everybody who came before us went through, and some of the struggles that we went through when I came on the job, then maybe they'll be able to really appreciate what MAMLEO was all about.
So, Donald, let's talk a little bit about those struggles so people know that they're real. It's not just out there in the atmosphere. Let's talk a little bit about that time.
They're real. Okay. In short, just for historical purposes, MAMLEO was originally known as MAP, the Massachusetts Association of Afro-American Police. And it was founded in 1968 by some of the founders of MAP and MAMLEO, the McLean brothers, the Thompson brothers. John Wells was involved. And when they founded MAP, they actually held their meetings at the Thompson brothers' house in Dorchester. Now, just to put it in perspective, MAP was founded in 1968. It was incorporated in 1969. Okay. In between 1968 and 1969, the word got out to a lot of other folks in the police department that the black officers were putting together some kind of an organization. Okay, a couple of things that they went through, and I'll be brief with this because it still kind of gets me a little perturbed. When the word got out that they were holding meetings at one of the officers' residence, there was actually a movement that was afoot where some of the other officers were actually planning on putting together a falsified search warrant to do a search warrant on that house.
Wow.
In other words, to cause them to just stop having meetings. So these officers, they got word of what they were doing. So they stopped having meetings at the house, and they had closed and secret meetings at the Freedom House, which nobody knew about. So at that time, if you were going to start an organization or if you wanted to do a part-time job or whatever it was, you had to get the permission of the police commissioner. It took them a year because of their determination. It took them a year in order for MAP to become incorporated. So MAP was incorporated in 1969.
Okay. So, Donald, at that time, how many approximately would you say, how many black police officers were on the Boston? Because I think people don't understand that back then, the police department was much larger than it is today. It's probably close to 3,000 officers. So
exactly.
And out of that, how many would you say were black officers during that time?
To the best of I'm just trying to do this from memory from what I was told by John Wells. I believe there were 28. 28
black officers out of around 3,000.
Right.
So when you put that in perspective, Dr. Brown, I know you're a historian, that those 28 had more courage than the hundreds that we have today. That's really sad. That's really sad.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, I'm sorry to cut you off, brother. But
no, go ahead.
Oftentimes, when these organizations starts, in every battle, there have to be someone who's willing to be the casualty. You know, you look at it from being a military man, someone's going to be the casualty. But it is that individual or those individuals who are willing to put everything that they have fought for up for future individuals who are coming to make a point, to make a step, to put it, make a position in the organization. Yeah. It took those 25, 28 officers to say, and I'm pretty sure not all of them were willing to sacrifice what little they had, right. You know, but someone had the foresight, someone had the courage, and someone had the determination to say, we're going to establish this because it's not going to stop here. There's going to be the Donald Browns, the Willie Bradleys, the Larry Ellisons, all those other individuals who are going to come in and make some profound changes to this organization. You know, I had this. Yeah, we all have had to make that decision on the Boston PD. Are we going to be the only one, or are we going to actually pave the road for the rest of the people to come?
Yeah. And the other thing that's important for it, at this point, it doesn't make any difference whether it's older officers who don't know the history or younger officers who have no clue. Yeah, one of the things that I always suggest to somebody is when you go back and you start trying to research an organization like MAP or MAMLEO, the other thing that you need to do is, especially if you're going back to those days, the other thing you have to do is research and look up what the social climate was like at that time. Because back in the 60s, that's when there was a movement for equality for blacks. That's when there were riots across the country. So everybody, a lot of people, I'll just say on the other side, had total disdain for those who were trying to get ahead, the people of color. And the thing about it was the original purpose of MAP was to concentrate on social activities. And not only that, but to develop a brotherhood among black officers.
Right. Well, I think to that point, Donald, history, Horatio Homer, who became the first black sergeant in the Boston Police Department, he became a Boston police officer in 1878, right? And he served for 40 years in the Boston Police Department. So people think that black officers only came on this job in the 60s and early. He was a trailblazer back then.
Yeah, and before, even a few years before NAP was founded, there was a black officer that everybody in the inner city neighborhoods knew, Tom Scott.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yep.
Scott. He worked out of the old Station 9. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I have to get across to the officers, young officers, if you want to research and find out what's going on with MAP or MAMLEO, forget about what you might hear about, MAP, because it's been heard throughout the decade. Well, that organization, they're not really about anything. They're not really helping anybody. Go and speak to somebody who's been there and has done that. And ask yourself 5 one-word questions. Who, what, when, where, and why. Mm. And once you're able to answer those questions, because the who was the McLean brothers and the Thompsons. So what was they wanted to create an organization that would enable them to at least have some strength within an organization where that type of strength was not allowed. Mm. And when, like I said, it was back in 1968. Mm-hmm. And where was the Freedom House and at the house? And the why was simply because, again, they wanted to create a brotherhood among black officers at that time. Yeah. The reason that was so important then, and it's still important now, is because, you guys know me, I don't bite my tongue. No. Because then, as in now, there are some folks who believe they got out the box. No, there are some folks who believe that there is a blue line and everything is just blue, and that's not true. Never has been.
It's black and blue. You're listening to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. We have the distinct honor of having retired Detective Donald Brown on the phone with us, and the reason why we asked him to join us this morning because MAMLEO finally got approved to build their new home on that same spot there, that same location there. We finally went through all of the red tape with the city of Boston, finally got the green light to put our new home there. But I don't want people to, before it goes, to understand the fight and not just look at that new shiny structure and say, wow, this is great. There was a struggle, before this ground gets broken. But also, Donald, you had the distinct honor of being on the board at MAMLEO many a times, chairing the board. I remember I sat, when I was president. And your brother, Larry Brown, I hope he's well, he was one of the former presidents, of the honor. And that's a very distinct honor. Dr. Bradley and I have had the honor, and it is quite an honor to serve as president of MAMLEO, because with that, most of the time, that's why our logo, MAMLEO is a bullseye, because we know once you put on that, you have a target. You have a target. The BPPA didn't create it. They don't have a target. We have a target on our back, and we take that on, and all of us have paid a price for that, but it was worth the price of admission. Dr. Brother, I know you served as president of MAMLEO as well. Donald, let's talk about your brother, because I know you and him are very close. And I'm sure he shared, and I'm not asking you to share any personal secrets or anything, but his time and his experience, because I know he was a very vocal advocate for MAMLEO during his time as president, and even as he stepped down.
Well, see, and that's one of the keys. Like you had mentioned it, and one of the things about Larry, I think we both basically got it from our mom. As far as if you're in the right, never bite your tongue. Let them say what they want to say about you. Because you really don't care about what they think about you as long as you're right. And Larry was very vocal. Larry was very vocal, and he took on some tasks where some people who at the time were members of the organization did everything they could to try to keep him from saying anything at all. And prior to that, even with Billy Sylvester, when Billy Sylvester was president of MAP, there were folks, and I'll just put it out there, within the organization that were doing the same thing, basically saying that Billy should, and said the same thing about Larry, just should shut up and just go away, and then being accused of, well, you're making waves. How am I going to get to where I want to go if you're making waves?
No,
and the people didn't realize at the time that as vocal as he was and as steadfast as he was basically equivalent to when you were president, Larry.
No, it's
because
funny.
you were attacked from Monday to Sunday.
Listen, it's funny you say that, because I remember a friend of mine who was in leadership in the police department, when he found out I was running for president of MAMLEO, offered me a position in his office, and said, becoming the president of MAMLEO is a career ender. And I said, it's the highest compliment you could pay me. I said, it's even more why I'm going to continue my candidacy, because exactly if just being elected or running for an honor of serving our people, our community, is threatening to people, that means we've got work to do.
Yeah. And the other thing, as part of the history of MAP, I don't want to leave out the history of the female officers that first came into MAP.
I was going to ask you when that took place, if you know.
Okay, the first females of color, black females that came on the job, that happened 1975.
Wow. So we're not talking.
And there were nine female police officers, and you have to pardon me, I'm doing this from memory.
No.
Laura Howard, I think it was Frances Richardson, Ruby Figs, he was my partner, Marie Rice, Millie McGowan, Maggie Sylvester, Wanda Treadway, Selena Buckhalter, and I think it was Elaine King. Those those were the 9
Wow. And you think,
that came on.
I had the honor of working with some of those ladies, not knowing that they were the first, and that's why, it's important to understand the history of Laura Howard and
Laura.
Maggie Celeste I worked with, Millie McGowan worked with. These were legends, and they also paved the way for some of the women that came from behind them. I had a female partner for several years, Karen Nixon, one of the best people to work with. That's why I say our history should be no mystery.
No, and the thing about it with the all of the officers, but in particular the female officers, have to realize it or get to know and appreciate is what those 9 went through when they first got on. Just as a quick example, they would go into roll call. None of the men wanted to work with them.
Wow.
And it's sad to say, even some of the black officers didn't want to work with them. So what they would do is they would give them a walkie-talkie, and they would give them a walking beat. And just as an example, one would have a walking beat from, say, up on Blue Hill Avenue where Simcoe's is, all the way down to Mattapan Square. And the good thing about it back then was some of the black officers like John Wells, Billy Sylvester, and a couple of the others, since they were in a car, they would turn around and they would check on them every hour to make sure that they were okay. But again, the younger officers, one way or another, they have to appreciate what happened before they got on the job. And despite what anybody may try to tell me, you wouldn't have the job if it had not been for the people that came before you and before me.
No, that's true, and and it's still taking. I know, Dr. Bradley. If you mind speaking to, you became president of MAMLEO. You got targeted, right? You were promoted to deputy superintendent, but you were targeted. And a lot of it had to do with you. You didn't trade in your black card when you got elevated.
Well, when I became the president of MAMLEO, and I remember specifically talking to Commissioner Evans at the time, and he said to me, well, I know you're the president of MAMLEO, and the department needs you for this area. And I said, listen, if you're asking me to give up my membership, then I don't want the job, because to me it's much more important than your job.
Yeah.
But if you're asking me to take this position and understanding that I have a very close relationship with the organization, because it's not about me, it's about, he goes, no. I appreciate the fact that you have a commitment to your people. That's what he said to me. So no, I'm not asking you that. I'm just saying that this is what we need, your skill set. I said, okay, I'll take it. I don't have a problem with that, but I'm never going to walk away and turn my back on the association, because that's my future. I could have family members who are following in my blaze trail to become police officers, and I'm doing a serious disrespect to them and my people if I do that. Right. And he said, I understand it. Right. I did the same thing for my people. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so MAMLEO is extremely important for future police officers. And I'm just happy to hear that the building is we finally got the approval to build on that site.
Exactly.
And I'm just sitting here saying it's about time, because I remember the fight that I had when I tried to do it when I was working on it.
I had the same issues. I'm working with them now. You're listening to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. 617-282-0685. 617-282-0685. We have Donald Brown, a retired detective, member of MAMLEO, been in the community forever. We're reflecting on, and I think it's important when these times, right, of black police officers, and people sometimes, black, that's exclusive to everyone, right? If you have a problem with being called black and you're a person of, you're Haitian or Jamaican, then it's your problem, because black is something you should be proud of. And that's why, as Donald alluded to, that MAMLEO's original name was MAP, Massachusetts Association of African American Police Officers. And why MAMLEO changed its name from MAP to MAMLEO was to be inclusive of all the diversity that even is amongst us, right? So that there said the shift. But even with that, we still had some issues, Donald, because there were quite a few lawsuits that were levied against the city of Boston when it came to hiring and promotions. And I think that has also hurt us in a lot of ways, because people, just like you're explaining a lot today, did not understand. Like, one of them was when it came to the promotions, that when MAMLEO, from my understanding and what I've read, is that when they went into court to try to get it as a class action, the judge would not allow it on that basis, that we needed to get, we had a few Hispanic officers on the department, and that he said if you felt like you were a plaintiff or you were harmed, that you needed to sign on. And at the time, MAMLEO couldn't get any of the few Hispanic officers to sign on. So they weren't excluded because of MAMLEO. They were excluded because, but then that set this firestorm that somehow people thought that MAMLEO only was representing African Americans.
Even though historically that name was changed in 1984.
Okay.
So it went from that to MAMLEO in 1984. And that's when we started including Hispanics and even Asian officers. And then when
we even had some white officers that were members.
I was getting ready to say, even a step further, I remember at a couple of meetings there were some female white officers.
Yeah, I mean, because Gene Vallier, I think his name was.
Yeah, because at that time, when you were president, and there was the overall consensus, even of the board of directors, because to include women as minorities, because women weren't getting a fair share.
Yeah.
So we were including everybody, and then unfortunately, as with a lot of organizations like MAMLEO, there were people who looked like us who were totally against everything.
Yeah.
No matter what it was, they were against everything because they felt it was going to make some of their other peers, in quotes, basically mad at them.
Right. So, Donald, I want to pivot a little bit because, when I came on, and Dr. Bradley, I don't know if you've participated in it, there was the National Black Police Association, right? And that seems to have really, MAMLEO, in my opinion, is probably the strongest, if not the one of
Nobles.
Right. Nobles is more for management and chiefs and stuff like that. It kind of bougie. But there was the National Black Police.
The other national is NABLEO. The National Association.
NABLEO. And there used to be a huge convention every year, and I went to many of them, and it was some of the proudest moments to see that many black officers from around the country. And then on Sunday we would go to church and everyone would be in their uniform, and we would march through the neighborhoods, and it was intentionally designed to support the communities of color where we would have this, so we can make sure we leave our money in our neighborhoods. Granted, none of our people owned the hotels, but we patronized the restaurant. It was intentional to find and identify businesses that we could support in the convention with their sales. I say that because that is something that I truly miss, and it kind of started fizzling out, and it really dissipated probably over 20 years ago now or more, that you didn't see that participation in the new younger officers. That's why they're not getting that history, because they think that somehow their problem is isolated to where they are and not understanding this is a national problem.
Yeah, because I can remember, it had to have been when MAMLEO had, before. Oh, okay, when MAMLEO had the, I think it was a 50th anniversary celebration.
Yeah, yep.
I put together a slideshow presentation on the history of MAMLEO. And I still have it. Just to go off topic for a second, I was down in MAMLEO yesterday because I haven't been able to get to the building in a while. And when I walked through the door, and I'll be honest, I almost got emotional about it. When I walked through that door and I looked up, and I saw the pictures of all of the past presidents.
It used to be there before, right? Yeah.
I suggest to any young officer that walks through that door, and I highly recommend at least attend one meeting anyway. But when you walk through that door, look up and look at that wall and see all of the sacrifice that was made prior to you getting on the job.
Yeah, you haven't been there yet. Have you seen those photos, though?
No, I haven't been there. I was there for the Black History Month, and I did a speech there.
Dr. Lopes,
But I asked if they were going to do that, and
Dr.
he said it
Lopes
was going to
has
happen.
done that. He has done a phenomenal job. This is a young man that is invested. Who I love him. He's a little more of a brother than anything. And that I know Donald's, because when I walked in the first time, I didn't realize, because before they used to be up the pictures of all the former presidents, and then they kind of, like I said, no one's paying attention, and they were taken down. And I was glad to see that they have put that back up there. So
where are they?
As soon as you walk in the lobby of the MAMLEO, as soon as you walk in, our current president, the way it used to be, is over the door leading into the function hall, and then all the other former presidents are on that wall, walking down the hallway towards the
Really?
Europe.
Yeah.
Yes, all of the presidents are there.
Oh wow!
All of the presidents are there.
That give me feeling just to think about.
Right, you need to go through there because I'm like, wow, and ironically, because I think they found like Dr. Lopes' baby picture, because he looks like he's 10 years old, and they must have found mine from way back when too,
Oh, wow.
we look like little kids,
But we were fighting, man.
Exactly,
We were fighting.
exactly. So.
The other thing too that's really important to me. Yeah, there's some retirees that are still part of MAMLEO. But one thing that people have to realize, there are a few of us who, even though we can't make it into that building every month, and even though we're not there, during board meetings or some of the membership meetings, don't think for 1 minute that some of us are still not working our tails off behind the scenes.
No, absolutely. And this is where, like you said, when MAMLEO used to have a health and welfare, and I think part of it was because we knew and identified there was still racism in law enforcement. There still is today. Exactly, yeah. Doc. And so we were more likely to work together. Now it's like every man, woman for themselves. And I'm not sure how we get back away from that, where we're looking at the mission where people are willing to sacrifice, like our former president, Eddie Crispin, when he was asked, one of the things that I was proud that I was able to accomplish as president at MAMLEO, when the reforms came around, I saw an opportunity for us to have a seat at the table, which we normally didn't, and was able to negotiate with our legislators to get MAMLEO a permanent seat on the post, which is the police oversight standing and training. And people said, why is that important? And it's important because it is a position where officers' behavior, and it lets people know that MAMLEO has a seat at the table, and they're invested in holding all law enforcement accountable. And that was important. And so we don't have a temporary seat there. We have a permanent seat there. So I say that because if you thread all of the work that has been done and continues to be done, like Dr. Lopes now getting us across the finish line with getting this building to be erected in the way it is, that is that thread that has been sewn in from the beginning of the Thompsons family in their kitchen and those other officers. And we need to pay homage to that and not forget that. And also the struggles that are going on today and why people think, oh, well, pay's gotten better. Yes, but that doesn't deal with the personal things that, the unfair treatment. Right now, we're seeing it whether pretty much every black, we've only had two in a couple of weeks with Dennis White, gets more scrutiny than all of the other white commissioners that we've had in the police department. Michael Cox is seeing it now that there isn't any rescue coming to him, and this is exactly what we try to tell him, is that you will be held to a different standard than your predecessors, other than that of Willie Gross. But when Dennis White, when things came, he didn't last 2 weeks. Now Michael Cox is under this cloud, and people are betting that he probably won't be here much longer, but other commissioners have had way worse situations. They were able to weather the storm.
And the thing that's so ironic about this is the fact that somebody out there could easily turn around and ask, well, Where was the support for this commissioner? Where was the support for that other commissioner? Why does that commissioner have more support than this one does now? And I mean, it's not rocket science.
Well, it's not. But Donald, I think back in the past, because you helped me here, you know, historically back then, if you were black and you wanted to be elevated to the command staff, right? And I know, I think if who was the first? I know it wasn't Billy Celeste. It was the first deputy.
Willis Saunders.
No, Willis wasn't the first deputy superintendent, because I know.
Craigwell.
Craigwell,
yeah.
You had to. MAMLEO membership had to pretty much sign off on that, because it had to be someone that was going up there and have our best interest. It almost seems to be, not almost, it pretty much is the opposite now, is that you cannot darken the door of MAMLEO if you want to be in leadership today. You cannot be actively helping to level the playing field if you want.
Well, and that's where I got my contention. That's where I got my pushback, because, like I said, when I became the president of MAMLEO and I became the deputy superintendent, I made it clear to the chief at the time, as well as which was Fahey. He and I had never got along, and the commissioner, that I'm not turning my back. And so when things happened, when I was sitting at the table and I heard things that I thought would be detrimental to the association, or the association should know that's coming, I would not just send an email. I would go. I would actually open the door, and I was one of the few deputy superintendents that actually walked in after I made the rank and said, listen, this is what the department is doing. This is where it's going. This is what MAMLEO need to be prepared for, you know. And my colleagues were like, well, that's going to get you. I'm like, well, okay. Well, it's a job. It's a paycheck. Right. It's not my life, you know. Right. My integrity is more important to me than this paycheck. Right. You know, yeah, do I need money? Absolutely. But, you know, I'm not starving as a patrol officer. I'm not in my integrity. Right. I'm not paying for that. I'm not selling you my integrity. But as a patrol officer or a sergeant, I'm still making a living. Right. And I'm making a decent living, better than the average bear, by the way. Right. You know what I mean? So, you know, you have to make that decision.
So, Donald, how do we pivot? You know, Dr. Bradley raised some very good points there. How do we pivot to getting back to and getting our younger officers to understand? Because it's hard to get them, other than, you know, they're really social media driven, the devices, right? You know, back then, I remember back in the days, you know, you would get a postcard in the mail about the reminder of the monthly meeting. Technology has gotten better, but it seems like participation has waned. And I mean, to the credit, they're trying to do hybrid, where they're doing, you know, the in-person as well as, you know, on the social media spotlight.
Zoom.
Yeah, Zoom. Yeah, you know, so that has helped, you know, because then, you know, not everyone can be in the building physically. But the other thing that is of concern to me is that we've had a lot of spin-offs, right, of different organizations. And I tell people there's nothing wrong with you celebrating your diversity, because MAMLEO embraces that diversity of the culture of our members. But let's not put the appearance out there that we're separated, right? That, you know, MAMLEO is that big tree, and these should be the branches of that tree. Because if because what they've tried to do, and they're doing, is going after these smaller pockets and try to separate and divide and say, look, if you just stay away from them, we'll bless you with something. And they find out that's not the case. They usually get nothing as well.
Well, I have a couple of ideas. One of them I'll speak to you, you know, off air.
Yeah.
But one idea would be, one of the things that you have to try to do is get people into the building. And we're so sad about it. Unless you're having some kind of a afternoon brunch with an open bar or whatever, a lot of folks that aren't going to show up. And one of the things that I was entertaining, but then I reverted back to my first thought, was to have a special meeting of the membership and just have part of that meeting be about the history of the organization. Basically a no-holds-barred, shoot straight from the hip meeting. Mm-hmm. And let folks know firsthand. The other thing, maybe, since social media has basically taken over would be to be able to maybe email out a copy of the history of the organization to all the members.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they get it, some of them may, open it up and start looking at it and then close it and, I haven't got time, I got a detail. But if 50 people get that email and 10 of those people actually go through the entire thing, then we reach 10 people.
Right.
And those 10 could reach out possibly to 10 more.
Yeah.
And try to snowball it that way.
Yeah.
Now, I was saying the other idea I have, I'll speak to you off air about that because I don't want to put the idea out there and somebody steal it from you.
No, absolutely. But again, Dr. Bradley, like I said, you teach as well, and this generation is so connected to their devices. It's hard to get them to understand because the calls come once they get in trouble, right? Because I keep saying the only thing I think MAMLEO should do with their new shirts is on the front the logo, but on the back say what, Dr. Bradley?
If you're here long enough, your turn will come.
Exactly. Because that should be on the back of the shirt because it is a constant reminder. Because I still get calls from people who were in denial that this was still a problem within law enforcement, that somehow racism had gone away.
Well, no. Well, see, the thing is, if you remember the conversation when I was going through my situation, I said,
was there with your brother.
Yes, you were. And I said to you, we need to have a general counsel, someone that would be there with MAMLEO members when they're talking to the union lawyer, because the union lawyer only cares about, he's working for the union.
Right.
He's not working for me.
Absolutely.
So we need to have someone there to say to this guy, I know you have a bar card, and I know what the bar card requires you to do. So if you don't do this for my client, then I'm going to have a problem with you on the bar, brother attorney. And then we got the attorneys that we have.
You were heading up the legal for me on that, and we sat down and we came up, and that's why I said there's been this thread of things that have gotten us to where we are today, right? Where each one during their tenure has tried to improve on what was already there.
So I'm going to make a suggestion.
Okay.
I'm gonna make a suggestion that either be it by Zoom or in person, that we have from time to time a past president meeting. A past president, all the living presidents of MAMLEO, former presidents of MAMLEO, along with the current, will come together and try to plot out the next steps, the next areas that we need to issue, like AI. How can we bring that AI situation in to better our membership? So I'm going to recommend that we do a past president meeting from time to time, once a month, once every other month, what the case may be.
And I like that idea because, listen, let's face it, we're all getting up there in age, right? And we don't want that knowledge to die. It shouldn't die with us,
That's right.
because I think about the people, a lot of them, all of them that Donald mentioned, unfortunately, are no longer here with us, right? Paul Gaines, the Thompsons, Billy Sylvester, John Wells, some of our sisters there, Maggie Sylvester, they're no longer here. And I remember Manny Denberville, and it got lost. He did a video with some of those folks because we asked him to try to capture that. And so that people could see that, and I think he somehow it got lost or deleted, but man, it would be so powerful to see that, because I remember there's a movie, Black Cop. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you've got it. It's on YouTube. It's with Billy Sylvester and others, and they're out there on patrol. It's something that actually MAMLEO should show it during one of its general memberships as part of the meeting to remind us of what our folks went through, and it's just a modern day version of it today.
Because I was even fortunate enough to obtain a copy of an interview that Willis Saunders did on Channel 2.
Yeah.
And I still have that.
Right. Right.
See, these are the things. Sorry to cut you off, but to me, these are the things that I think, because behind this, like I was saying, but I'll just speak for myself. Behind the scenes, I have been staying on top of all of this so-called modern technology, including AI.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to figure out a way to enable all the members of MAMLEO to get the same information at the same time.
Right.
Well, rather than go through this word of mouth that's basically, because if people sit down and really are honest with themselves, they better resign themselves to the fact that history, our history, is slowly being erased.
Absolutely.
And there's a reason for it.
Right. Because if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it, and you think you're doing it for the first time. If you know your history, just like the Jewish community said, never again. They're never going to forget the Holocaust. They're not going to repeat it, right? And we should be in the same mindset that we're not going to go through this again. But this is where I appreciate, like Dr. Bradley and I have been. My brother's been with me when we started. During my tenure as president, why we made us avail of this time to have this broadcast. So when we have issues, so we can have a conversation like this. What radio station, Donald, would allow us to sit here and talk about the issues that we discuss here on this broadcast? Allow the community to call in and weigh in. Right, and get things.
There isn't one.
No,
because I remember when we started on Sunday night.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Well, brother, I tell you something. If you don't know your history, it's easy to eradicate you. If you think about it, because you have nothing to hold on to, and if you don't know your history, I can tell you what your history is, and trust me, it won't be the real history. It'll be what I have decided that you need to know. So we need to make sure that I say all that to say that we need to make sure that the young people who are on the force understand not only the history of MAMLEO, but also the history of the people in the city, and how this history, how the city, because at one point, the Boston Police Department was fugitive slave catchers.
Right.
If you think about it.
That's what they were established to do.
That's what they were established. They were actually taking black people who had run away from slavery to Faneuil Hall to be returned to slavery.
Yeah.
That's history.
Right.
And so at one point, if you were a Boston police officer, you were on the wrong side of history.
Right.
So people need to understand that. And I'm not saying that they need to know it because they're going to hate other people. I'm saying that they need to know it so they have a full understanding as to what they're doing and why they're here.
Well, the other point,
and they'll know what to look out for.
Right. And to that point, Dr. Bradley, it made me think about here when we're talking about the Orange Man, right? In that sometimes when like he keeps telling people, oh, the economy is great, right? And we are tying this in, is that if you think you're the only one suffering, you say, well, maybe I'm just not doing the right thing, so maybe that's why I don't have food or whatever, right? It's the same thing if you think that, oh, well, I'm the only one that's being disciplined like that we don't understand the history of it.
But it's okay.
There you go. That we're not capturing it because not knowing, wait a minute, black police officers have been going through this even before this organization was established. They just established this organization to try to stem it and to get out in front of it, right? Because look, the $40 million judgment from one of the lawsuits that I filed, that Pope for cashing a check, said this isn't just about you cashing a check.
That's right.
Yep.
This is about understanding how we got here, because the money doesn't right the wrong.
The wrong still existed.
Exactly.
And oh, by the way, it's going to repeat itself down the line eventually once the money is completely gone, still gone.
Oh, yeah.
So we have to understand that it's necessary for us to educate the people before they're coming after us. The problem we have in our community, this is Dr. Bradley speaking, is that we have relied on other people to educate us.
Hello.
We have relied on other people to paint the history of the people who came before us.
Well, I say that because I know you have not, Donald has not, because we see in our homes, right? We're not waiting for someone to teach our children. Right? We teach them about their history, and we help them because we know that the system is not designed to instill in them what we will instill. Donald, we've got about 5 minutes here. We want anything that we didn't cover. We want to give you a moment to say appreciate you taking the time this morning. We definitely, and I think this is a segment that we really need to have as a regular segment, right? Bringing this out, so reminding folks that this struggle is not over. This is why we get up on Saturday morning and come here and try to deal with these issues in the way that we do, because we know that we're seeing it in real time.
Well, all I gotta say to that is, anytime, whenever you decide that you want to, continue with this conversation, just give me a call. You know I'll be there.
Donald,
and the other thing,
stand by. Donald, stand by. I want to squeeze this call in because I want to see if it's something you want to respond to. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the roundtable.
Good morning. No, nothing to respond. Just some great ideas that I heard. Usually I'm there live, but the idea of the past presidents meeting sounds like a great idea. You should definitely spearhead that.
Okay.
And the fact of the matter is that, try to, find a way to encourage those young people to come in and check out and learn their history. Because Malcolm X said it, the whole idea is like, if you're going to let the oppressor teach you your history, you might as well just go back to slavery.
But Rose, this is why
we need to educate our own people.
Right. This is why we need folks like yourself, right, to be able, like we have Eddie Crispin and a few others, right. But I think it's important, folks like yourself, to get us in front, even if we have to interpret through someone else like yourself in our Haitian communities and whatnot, what the message is and why we're in this together. And not the division that they want us to continue.
Yeah, divide and conquer. You guys were opened up, like when you said to open up as minority, you opened up the organization to everyone, but yet they were putting the narrative like it's only for black people, it's only for black people.
Right.
So again, and civil rights, the biggest beneficiaries of civil rights have been white women. So what is good for us, has been good for society. Everyone else is used
Title VII
civil rights to.
Well, brother, one of the areas that I think is important, and the reason why I thought about the past president meetings is that the current president would need our support, really, because he's under attack.
That's why I'm always there.
Yeah, he's under attack, and in some cases, and I'm just going back when I was the president. These are forces behind him, or in front of him, on the side of him, all around him, that he may not even be aware of because he's so busy in taking care of the business of the association. And so we need to be able to say, we need to be that girding of support for him.
Well, that's why I was saying I'm so glad, like people like Paul Joseph, yourself, myself, Eddie, we're all still involved with him, and he knows that, right? That's why when they called me a couple of weeks, hey, can you help with the building? They have I have a background, absolutely, and I'm helping them with that. And anything else, I've volunteered to be the spokesperson for them because it takes the heat off of them. It's not that they're not afraid to speak, but we know that they got
limitations.
They got rules and regulations,
but we don't have those rules and regulations.
Exactly, all those restraints.
We had them, but not. You can't keep my mouth shut.
The handcuffs are off, folks. We've got to go. Donald, thank you. I'll definitely get in touch with you off the air. We've got to wrap up here. Thank you so much, Rose. Thank you appreciate it, and Donald, thank you for a spirited conversation. A reminder to MAMLEO members that today at MAMLEO's headquarters, 61 Columbia Road, is a general membership meeting, as well as through Zoom. I'm sure if you haven't already received the link from MAMLEO, you should have. Please participate. This is your organization. You have a leader, but you're not being led. Okay. So, with that said, Pastor Hobbs, thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Dr. Bradley?
Be blessed.
Unfortunately, we've got a lot of problems over there at Roxbury Community College.
This is for the dreamers. They say I am a dreamer, 'cause I still believe that anything is possible as long as you work hard. Hustle real hard, hustle real hard, hustle real hard, hustle. So if I never see ya, never get the chance to meet ya, No, I came up from the bottom, always rooting for the underdog.
I wrote 300 songs in 1 year, Boogie will tell you I'm on it. I got unreleased songs for days, they don't want it. Eat any MC in the game, it ain't a challenge. If your music reflects who you are, then you's a coward. I can see through the lies you ain't living what you spitting. If your money's so long, why your dog's in prison? Why your baby mom's stripping, why your mom's still living in that same broken home that you used to sell piffin'. You ain't gotta lie to me to sell me a track. You ain't gotta rock fake jewels or walk around strapped. I respect artists getting money, but love them for spitting crack. And the fact that one track can move a family out the trap. It's a dream for us lost souls brought up in the mix. I'm motivated by the artists coming out in my midst. And the artists that paved the way when I didn't exist. Music's a skyscraper, I'm just trying to add a couple bricks.
This is for the dreamers. They say I am a dreamer. Cause I still believe that anything is possible as long as you work hard.
Hustle real hard, hustle real hard. Hustle real hard, hustle
So
real
if I never see ya, never get the chance to meet ya. No, I came up from the bottom, always rooting for the underdog.
hard, hustle real hard, hustle real hard.
I always